In one of Europe's busiest ports, workers are battling to construct a concert hall to rival the best in the world. But work isn't going to plan. The building is 7 years late.
Well, frankly, it's a big mess.
10 times over budget.
Basically, we knew that there is no failure allowed.
And threatening to destroy everyone's reputation.
If the sound was not correct, we have to do harakiri.
It's an ambitious project to construct a unique 18-story building on top of an old warehouse. To create perfect acoustics.
Wow!
In one of the noisiest places on Earth. Some of the world's greatest architects and engineers are using ingenious solutions. A model the size of a small house, 150,000 tons of concrete, and thousands of custom-made components. Can they create, against the odds, the greatest concert hall in the world? Hamburg is Germany's second largest city, but it's relatively unknown around the world. As part of the development of its old dockland, Hamburg plans to celebrate its musical heritage with an iconic structure. The city that gave birth to Brahms, Mendelssohn, and even launched the Beatles, wants a world-class concert hall to put it on the map. Situated on the banks of the River Elbe, the Elbphilharmonie will tower 26 stories high, making it the tallest building in the city and a symbol of Hamburg. Its story began in 2001, when property developer Alexander Gerard saw an opportunity to develop a disused 1960s warehouse in Hamburg's old docks.
Well, it was just more or less what you see now. It was a building with very little windows for ventilation purposes, and then you had these balconies which you could drop so that you could bring the goods inside. We did not want to have the building knocked down, so we had to look for a use which meant no daylight if you wanted to keep the facade.
Gerard knew of one type of building that didn't need windows.
We knew as concert goers that Hamburg had lost 2 big concert halls during the Second World War. Hamburg was lacking an important part of its music infrastructure, and this led to the proposal of building a new concert hall.
Gerard traveled to Basel in Switzerland to present the idea to the architects Jacques Herzog and Pierre de Meuron, famous for designing the Tate Modern in London and the Olympic Games Bird's Nest Stadium in Beijing. But would some of the most innovative architects in the world stake their reputations on rebuilding an old brick box?
We said, yes, we would love to do this. We've never done a concert hall.
Delighted they were interested, Gerard took them to see the brick warehouse.
And Jacques and I and him, we were standing on the roof of this building.
What they saw was a fantastic location with 360-degree views of the city. The perfect spot for a landmark building.
The original idea was that the concert halls would be inside the old structure and grow out of it.
But the architects had something very different in mind.
He sort of made a sketch of what it could look like.
With this quick sketch, Gerard's idea was literally turned inside out. His beloved brick warehouse was about to become a plinth. Instead of building the concert hall inside the warehouse, Herzog and de Meuron would build it on top. The concept is radical. Entering the building, visitors will ride the longest curved escalator in Europe to a scenic roof terrace on top of the warehouse. Above this will be the centerpiece of the building, the main concert hall, with steep terraces seating 2,100 people. built around it will be 45 apartments, shops, restaurants, and a luxury hotel, all wrapped in shimmering glass walls that rise to peaks like cresting waves. When Herzog and de Meuron unveiled their designs to the citizens of Hamburg in June 2003, they created a sensation.
People really loved it, and it was published in newspapers, and there was a movement bottom up, and not top down, bottom up. We want that.
The Senate of the city of Hamburg in December 2003 unanimously cast a vote to go ahead with the project.
In April 2007, after 4 years of planning, construction begins. But the costs are already rising. From an initial estimate of 77 million euros to 272 million, or about 360 million US dollars. Having a groundbreaking design and a spectacular location isn't enough. To be the world's greatest concert hall, it can't just look the best. It will have to sound the best too. And for that, they needed one of the world's top acoustic designers.
We invited acoustical engineers from all over the world, American, British, Australian, Japanese.
In California, they approached the man who had recently completed Los Angeles' acclaimed Walt Disney Concert Hall.
Yeah, I can imagine so complicated.
A man excited by working with some of the world's most adventurous architects. Yasuhisa Toyota.
The design by the architect is quite unique, very, very exciting. The first time that we see this kind of unique design, and so it's very, very challenging here.
But it wasn't just the architect's ambitious designs that posed a challenge for Mr. Toyota. It was also the location of the building. With the bustling city centre on one side and Germany's busiest port on the other. 9,000 ships transport over 130 million tons of cargo and 500,000 passengers through these docks each year. Ships' horns are the biggest problem. Their low-frequency sound can be heard over 4 kilometers away and can penetrate even very thick concrete. Today, Mr. Toyota is going to find out firsthand just what he's up against.
Wow.
It's your first time on the bridge of a ship?
Yes,
Yeah?
sure.
You can see this handle.
Yeah.
So you have to pull the handle only in this direction.
Oh.
And then you start.
Oh, very simple. Shall I?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Don't be shy.
Wow. Very easy.
If you like, we can go outside. You can feel the difference between here
Okay.
and between outside.
For the full effect, Mr. Toyota needs to stand directly in front of the horn.
If you're ready, you can do it now.
Wow, this is loud.
It is. Feel
Huge
the vibration and
difference.
the sound, yeah?
Yeah. But actually, this is a very, very good experience for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mr. Toyota's problem is that even if they build the concert hall with very thick walls, low-frequency sound will vibrate the concrete and be transmitted to the inside. His solution is soundproofing on an unprecedented scale. The plan is to build not just one vast concrete concert hall, but 2, one inside the other. In a double wall construction, the outer concrete wall can reduce the sound of the foghorns enough that it will become too weak to penetrate the inner wall, ensuring the concert hall remains insulated from outside sounds. Great in theory, but many would say attempting this classic soundproofing trick on such a vast scale is all but impossible. June 2010. Work on the outer concrete shell of the Elbphilharmonie Concert Hall is nearly complete. And construction of the inner shell is well underway. Bolted to the inner shell, a matrix of steel girders will support the stage and seating areas. A steady stream of lorries delivers concrete to the site. Giant cranes winch it 100 meters above the ground, so workers can pour it into molds filled with steel reinforcement bars to build up the walls. To complete the building, including the 2,100-seat concert hall, 244-room hotel and 45 apartments, it's going to take 63,000 cubic meters of concrete, weighing about 150,000 tons, and 18,000 tons of steel. With its unique, ambitious design, it's proving much trickier to construct than expected.
The geometry of the hall is already very complex, and now you have to create this like a second skin, almost an egg in an egg.
It's becoming clear that the original target to open the concert hall by the end of the year isn't going to be met. The acoustic designer Mr. Toyota is keen to check up on progress. In particular, on one specific feature of his design, on which the success of his whole plan depends. With all its steel and concrete, the concert hall will weigh 12,500 tons. And it can't simply float in thin air. It has to be supported somehow. But solid legs would transmit sound vibrations into the concert hall. So instead of legs, they have decided to use giant springs. The architect's project manager, Nick Lyons, is overseeing the construction.
Okay, at the moment we're in between the inner skin and the outer skin of the concert hall. The acoustical concept was to detach the inner concert hall from the rest of the building. The springs are responsible for isolating the inner concrete skin from the outer concrete skin.
The giant springs between the two walls should absorb any sound vibration.
Here you can actually see one of the spring packages. The bottom part attached firmly to the outer skin, the top part attached firmly to the inner skin, and in between, behind this flap, you can see the actual springs inside.
It will take 362 springs, each 30 centimeters long, to support the weight of the hall. Mr. Toyota hopes this will create a perfectly soundproofed concert hall. But in the process, they have created a serious headache for the project's structural engineers. With all this added weight, the new building will weigh an astonishing 200,000 tons. That's the weight of 2.5 large cruise ships, with most of that weight to be supported on an old brick warehouse. So, keeping only the facade, they had to demolish the interior of the building and rebuild it. New massive concrete pillars running through the structure provide support for the weight above. A giant spiral ramp provides access for vehicles. The interior space, originally planned for the concert hall, has become a 7-story car park.
We don't store anymore cacao or cafe, but we store cars.
With the soundproofing challenge dealt with, Mr. Toyota can get on with the job of making this the greatest sounding concert hall on Earth. A notoriously difficult problem that many great designers in the past have got badly wrong. When New York's Philharmonic Hall opened in 1962, critics panned it. The cost to improve its acoustics, $4 million. When San Francisco's Davies Symphony Hall opened in 1980, it too was a critical failure. Cost to improve its acoustics? $10 million. And there have been many other concert halls built with poor acoustics that cost millions to improve. The stakes are high, as Herzog and de Meuron's lead architect, Ascan Mergenthaler, knows only too well.
We were very worried from the very first moment, you know, that this, I mean, basically we knew that there is no failure allowed, you know, it has to work.
The safest option for the architects would be to copy the design of some of the world's best concert halls. These classic venues are all rectangular, a shape popularly known as shoebox.
So you have the orchestra on the stage in the front, like this. So it's like the two of us, it's looking at each other.
But Herzog and de Meuron are not known for playing safe. They want their audience to have a more immersive experience.
So we try to take inspiration from other places also, especially from stadiums, where we always admired the proximity of the spectator to the pitch.
So having in the center the orchestra, the podium, the stage, and the listeners around.
So, as well as building the concert hall in the middle of Germany's busiest port, Mr. Toyota knows that a shoebox shape that everyone knows will work is not an option. He's got to make this in-the-round concert hall sound the best in the world. Just as well, he has a sense of humor.
If the sound was not correct, then probably we have to do harakiri.
Stadiums aren't known for their classical music acoustics. So the stadium-like Elbphilharmonie is going to need some clever design to achieve just the right amount of echoes. Known to acoustic designers as reverberation. Jeff Alpert is an American percussionist living in Hamburg. To demonstrate how important reverberation is, today he will play his vibraphone in two very different venues.
Wow. It's completely dead in here. There's absolutely no reverberation at all. So we'll see how the vibraphone sounds in here.
This is an anechoic chamber, a room with no reverberation. The walls, ceiling, and even the floor are carefully designed to absorb sound waves.
There's really absolutely no echo at all, and that's quite strange. Even when you're speaking, you don't even hear any kind of echo coming from your voice. I don't think any musician would enjoy playing in a room like this for very long. For musicians, it's a very important part of playing is to be able to listen. And in a room like this, I think it would be very hard to hear each other. A good acoustic brings warmth to music, and in a room like this, you don't get that at all.
To demonstrate the other extreme, Jeff sets up his vibraphone in St. Michaelis, Hamburg's largest church. In a large space with hard walls, sound behaves in a completely different way. When Alpert plays a note on his vibraphone, it sends out sound in all directions. With the church's hard surfaces, the sound continues to bounce from wall to wall for several seconds.
You can hear you have about 3 or 4 seconds where it echoes.
Comparing the sounds of the church with the anechoic chamber, it's easy to hear the difference. If there's too much reverberation, the sound can become mushy as individual notes blend with the repeats of the notes just played.
perfect concert hall, I think, would have to be something right in the middle. And that would mean also that the reverberation is not too long, like it is here, but it has to be a lot more than it would be in the anechoic chamber.
To create the ideal reverberation in the concert hall, the architects must work closely with the acoustic designer, Mr. Toyota, to perfect the size and shape of the walls and the materials used on every surface.
For us, working with models is absolutely crucial, and they're real working models. You know, they're not presentation models. Yeah, I would say we maybe created over 100 models.
Using the models, the architects hone the layout and shapes of the walls.
Yeah, so this is an important cardboard model for us because it is already more or less the final shape. You know, this is basically where we are right now.
This type of concert hall is known as a vineyard style, as the layout of seats looks similar to the terraces of a sloping vineyard. Its complex arrangement of balconies and walls is essential to create a good acoustic. One of the keys to good sound is what acoustic engineers call early reflections. When a musician plays a note, the sound travels directly to each member of the audience. But a good concert hall must also reflect the sound from a nearby surface, so that the listener receives it between 10 and 80 milliseconds after the direct sound. Early reflections enrich the music for the listener. In the world's greatest concert hall, every seat in the house must receive these early reflections.
So you can see here the straight lines, and they are very important for the early reflections within the space. And you actually even need to introduce an in-between wall here, because that distance of the back wall here would be too far away from the actual orchestra.
They have tested the shape with computer simulations to show the acoustic works in theory. But there is only one way to really check it. Build it in a 1/10 scale model. This model took 6 months to build. Every detail is accurate. Even the tiny felt hats on the 2,100 model people absorb sound in a similar way to hair.
And one of the most important purpose of this 1/10 scale model and with actual sound is to detect detrimental echo.
To find any unwanted echoes that could ruin a concert, Toyota and his team play sounds through a 12-sided loudspeaker on the stage. Tiny microphones placed in the audience pick up the sound and feed it to the recording devices. Weeks of testing reveal a problem. The concert hall has an unwanted echo. It shows up clearly on the audio waveform.
This is showing the echo, and then this is coming from the ceiling.
A delayed echo was heard separately from the direct sound.
We have to find out the path for each echo in order to fix the problem by changing the angle, by changing the material.
A small change to the model ceiling fixes the problem.
Finally, we eliminate the detrimental echoes here.
Mr. Toyota has done all he can to create a perfect acoustic in this in-the-round design. But he won't find out if he's succeeded until opening night. And that's starting to look like it might be a very, very long wait. As summer turns to autumn, progress slows at the Elbphilharmonie construction site. Work is underway on the glass facade. High above the River Elbe, the construction workers must install 1,098 individually designed glass panels. each costing on average around 20,000 euros. But fitting them is proving a bit of a nightmare.
Today we have to mount 6 elements. We have to mount it in the 26th floor. So today it's a little bit tricky because we have normal weather for Hamburg. It's raining, it's very windy.
This balcony unit weighs over a ton. Its large surface area means the wind could easily blow it out of control. If the wind reaches 40 kilometers an hour, installing the glass becomes too dangerous, and work must stop. Despite the wind, today the team is on target.
We fixed 6 elements per day. Well, we have fixed now 4 elements. Today the situation now is good.
In the same way the architects are striving to give their concert hall the perfect acoustic, they also seek perfection for the building's facade. Each panel is printed with a pattern of opaque dots for decoration and for temperature control.
This is the residential part of the building where you can see these kind of cutouts in the glass. They're like these kind of loggias where you can step outside, exterior spaces behind, so the residents themselves can actually get an understanding of the environment in sense of smell, sound and so on.
Each unit has its own unique design that contributes to the overall look that the architects wanted to achieve.
It speaks about liquid, about reflections and so on. The building skin now is becoming so much more interesting. You know, it's like a water surface. But a water surface has a texture. We suddenly create this very alive skin.
But the vast glass walls gave the architects an unusual problem. Normal glass could reflect ships' radar signals, creating the impression of ghost ships in the harbour.
The main problem of building such a large and, let's say, dominant glass element or glass building in the harbour area, especially which ships are coming in and out all the time, is the fact that you have to avoid any radar reflections from glass facade.
It could lead a ship's crew to think their vessel was on a collision course with another ship. The solution was to make the glass visible to radar with reflective chrome microdots embedded in the pattern.
These special chrome mirror dots on the glass have been placed in a way that radars from the big ships that actually enter the port of Hamburg won't have a kind of doubling effect of their signals.
Every stage of construction is closely monitored by the architects, and their next big challenge is the top of the building. The design calls for the vast 7,000 square metre roof to be covered in wave-like peaks and valleys that reflect its maritime location. But to construct it, around 1,000 steel girders must be curved into precise shape. Above these bespoke girders will be an outer skin of 5,800 aluminium discs, each one carefully placed by hand. Even for seagulls, the Elbphilharmonie will look stunning, if it ever gets completed. Because the project is now expected to be at least 3 years late. The costs continue to spiral, and the people of Hamburg are beginning to question whether the city needs to spend so much money. Even the musicians are concerned.
If it was spent with private money, then I would say wonderful, they can do whatever they like. However, the costs are now approaching 400 million euros.
It's a great thing to have such a musical landmark. And, but on the other side, it's taking a lot of money from all the other cultural activities in the city. And this has to be watched.
In November 2011, the crisis over rising costs comes to a head. In a dispute over reinforcing the roof, the construction company stops work. The project has become vastly more complicated and expensive than the job they agreed to 5 years earlier.
Tender was far too early, and you can imagine if the tender documents are not precise enough, then, of course, a contractor on the other side cannot make a fair price or a precise price.
The grand scheme that has swallowed hundreds of millions of euros of public money lies all but abandoned. The headlines revel in the misery of it all. And month after month passes as lawyers argue over who is to blame.
Well, frankly, it's a big mess.
This is unacceptable.
It's become a very political issue, and it's something that the politicians are fighting about.
With the costs more than quadrupling, might the world's greatest concert hall never be finished?
Well, there's no turning back. I mean, what do you do with a building like that now?
For over a year, there is almost no work at the construction site. Until finally, the dispute is resolved. But at an additional cost of more than 250 million euros for the city of Hamburg. The total cost to the city is now a whopping 789 million euros, almost 850 million US dollars.
New contracts have been made which now make it possible to realize this building, and which hopefully will lead to a result that people will say, well, it was worth it.
In April 2013, construction of the Elbphilharmonie restarts. The glass facade and the roof can be finished. And the focus turns to the interior. Inside the large concert hall, the final part of the acoustic design is coming together. Over 10,000 specially designed acoustic tiles will line the walls and balconies of the auditorium. The design is abstract and modern. But these tiles owe their shape to a concept that dates back centuries. Research reveals that it's not just the shoebox shape that gives classical concert halls their superb sound. The decorations along the walls are just as important. When sound waves hit the plaster decorations, they scatter in different directions. This creates multiple reflections, giving a more even, natural sound. For the Elbphilharmonie, Herzog and de Meuron have created their own modern equivalent, that they call the white skin. Their specially developed fiber-reinforced gypsum tiles can be individually micro-shaped to create acoustic reflections to Mr. Toyota's exact specifications.
By scattering sound, we can get a very even distribution over the audience area.
Under Mr. Toyota's guidance, the architects developed the pattern on the white skin, tile by tile.
Every tile is different. That was part of the whole micro-shaping idea. So we started analyzing each wall with him, understanding more depth here meant more dispersion, less depth meant more direct reflection, and by doing that we kind of optimized acoustically every wall for his needs.
It's taken over 350 million lines of computer programming to produce this vast three-dimensional jigsaw. Every one of the 10,287 tiles is different, but their patterns must all line up.
It's basically like going back to childhood with a huge Meccano set. Everything is numbered, labeled, there's a sequence as to how things are done.
For Nick Lyons, this is a tense time. If the tiles don't fit together perfectly, it will be a major setback.
They started about 6 months ago, and they've been mounting in a kind of a spiral form, working their way up to the tip. I'm really surprised at the precision, I have to say. it just fitted. I mean, everything fitted. Of course, there was a little bit of shaving here and there, but in general, it was a set piece. It was fantastic.
And at last, it seems the rows over money are behind them.
Progress has been fast and impressive, and it's especially after such a long wait.
It's wonderful to see the progress of the construction. Yeah, it's going on well.
The building is starting to look good, but no one really knows if the extraordinary acoustic design will work until the first concert takes place. 6 years behind schedule, the end is finally in sight. In every part of the building, painters, electricians and fitters are hard at work. They're putting the finishing touches in preparation for the grand opening to the public.
At the moment, I mean, we're two months before official handover to the city, so it's very much about final paintwork jobs, fine-tuning of technical systems, maybe laying down the odd bit of wooden flooring.
The hotel is complete, and its 244 rooms are ready to receive guests. At the top end, a night here will cost you over $3,000 US. On the other side of the building, the prices of the luxury penthouse apartments are a secret that is only revealed to people who can show they have enough money to buy one. The most expensive is said to cost $37,000 per square meter. Also finished is the main public space.
At the moment, we're standing on the plaza, which is the rooftop of the whole storage building. It's a public level. Everyone can come here and without having to go to concerts, so everyone can experience the views.
After years of delays, the final work is progressing remarkably smoothly. But before they can reveal the concert hall to the public, the acoustic designer must give his approval. Mr. Toyota has flown in from Los Angeles.
It looks like a really beautiful Mount Fuji.
The reflector, designed to bounce sound back so the orchestra can hear themselves playing, wins his approval. And the concert hall?
It's just amazing.
Are you pleased with it?
Very much, very much.
Now Mr. Toyota is ready to put the concert hall's design to its first big test. It must render a passing ship's foghorns completely inaudible.
This is opening directly to the outside, and one of those weak points in the acoustic structure.
Will the double wall of the hall do its job? Or will Mr. Toyota have to commit hara-kiri?
Actually, the ship is coming along with the very close to the building. I don't hear the inside, but what is the situation outside? Tell me. Okay, fine.
Inside the hall, the ship's horn is inaudible.
The result is very successful, I think.
It has passed its first test. It's soundproof. But the critical test of its acoustics with a full orchestra is yet to come. Two months before the first concert, the city opens the plaza level to the public. After a 6-year delay, the people of Hamburg finally get to see what they have paid for. The architects have flown in from Switzerland for the press launch.
Today, this is the first handover to the public the handover of the public plaza, and that will be accessible for everyone. So it's a place for everyone.
To reach the public plaza from the entrance, visitors travel up the 82-meter-long escalator. Over 8,000 giant sequins line the walls. It's Europe's longest curved escalator. As visitors ascend, its convex shape slowly reveals their destination.
For us, it was always very important to be really firm, on special things, because the quality was in the foreground. So this was really almost, for us, no compromise.
The architects have stamped their mark on every aspect of the building. Vast arches allow light to pour into the center of the plaza floor. A rippling curtain of glass, rising from the brick floor, keeps out the wind. From the plaza level, curving staircases lead up to the main concert hall. The balcony, running right round the building, gives the people of Hamburg a 360-degree view of their city. Despite the cost, the locals seem proud of their new building.
I think it is a very impressive building. It did take quite a while to complete, and it did cost a lot of money, but I think it's elegant, and I think it's a gateway to the world and a gateway into Hamburg. It's great.
It's a big day for the architects, in more ways than one. Today, they are unveiling the concert hall to the press. Despite the hurdles along the way, they have stuck to and realized their original vision.
I have to say that even if this was especially long, architecture is always a marathon, it's not a sprint. Often we had difficult meetings, really difficult meetings, or bad news, contractual news, or other news, not good news, But when you went then to the construction site, then you were back again in this project world, and you were fascinated again and really fired by this unique place, and the work really kept us alive.
It has taken 16 years from initial sketch to finished building. But the time has finally arrived for the architects to let go of their creation.
It's like children. You are with them, you take care, you do the best to make it really a great child or a great piece of architecture, and you have to let it go. Like children, actually.
Hamburg finally has its new landmark. It's almost 2 decades since Alexander Girard first conceived the idea of putting a concert hall in an old warehouse. What does he think of the final result?
The look is different from what we envisaged. We wanted a more traditional glass facade, but all other details are marvelous. I really think so. It's very, very good architecture. The building as a whole is really quite exceptional.
Unlike the architects, Mr. Toyota can't let go. Just yet.
This is just the start of the process of actual testing and with actual missions. The first moment is, I would say, the most difficult moment, and since everything is new. So it means that for instance, how to play, how to hear each other, the process is taking time. Gradually, the situation will be, improved and changed, and by musicians themselves.
Will the hall satisfy its most demanding audience? The musicians who will work here. Jan Larsen is the first viola player in the resident orchestra. What does he think?
It's like a crystal. You can hear every detail. It's very easy to listen to your colleagues. It's kind of a very strict teacher to a group. So you really have to be, in every little detail, you have to be perfect. Otherwise it's hearable. It's just great.
After checking the sound from around the hall, Mr. Toyota gives his personal verdict on the acoustic.
I have no idea, the one of 10 best or one of 5 best, or but still, it is unique, and it should be one of those in world class, definitely.
But the most important judges will be the public attending the first concert. At last, it's the opening night of Hamburg's Elbphilharmonie Concert Hall. And the city is laying on a spectacular show. Above the plaza level, concert-goers make their way up the grand staircase that leads to the concert hall. Every one of its 2,100 seats was booked months ago. As the doors close, the hall's double walls ensure that not a sound reaches the public areas. This is the moment of truth. Will Hamburg's discerning music lovers give the acoustic the thumbs up?
It's really crisp and clear. It was really an experience to hear that, and you can hear every single instrument. It was really impressive. Yeah, really nice.
Overwhelmingly, people appear to love the hall and its acoustic.
I think the sound is beautiful. You can hear single instruments, and you really become very aware of how sound is produced and spreads.
The acoustics are very good, very good. And it's an acoustic which is probably best described as breathing,
If anyone knows if the sound is working, it's world-class conductor Kent Nagano.
The concert hall is an enormous success, of course, from an acoustic point of view. I think every musician, myself included, and every public member is so deeply moved to have this acoustic here in Hamburg.
At a total cost of 866 million euros, around $900 million, the Elbphilharmonie has been described as possibly the most expensive entertainment venue since the Romans built the Colosseum. So, was it worth it?
I think to see it right now, it's worth it. Yes, it's worth it. Yeah.
It certainly was worth the money. And also, this is what it's like in Germany. Had anyone said at the start, this will be over 500 million, then nobody would have built it. There would never have been an approval. So you start small and later, and when it's there, it's such a terrific thing. You don't think about money too much anymore.
Is it worth it? It simply is worth it, and it will be worth it for years, for many, many years. Whether it is decades, whether it is centuries, we don't know, but it is worth every single cent.
And is it the greatest concert hall in the world?
This has the potential to be one of the great halls of the world, and we'll just have to wait and see.